You're doing a good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody! Okay, this is CNP, which is my new show. Everybody knows that I have the Puck Drops here, which has been my show for the last year and a half on the National Hockey League. This is my man, CJ Keeling. He's big into baseball and football and other sports. We're going to be talking, yes, about the National Hockey League, but mainly about other North American sports like Major League Baseball, the NFL Draft, the National Basketball Association, the playoffs coming with that, and a lot of other topics. So we're going to talk about the Major League Baseball first. We're going to divulge into the New York Yankees. And I will give the floor to my man, CJ Keeling. Tell us about the Yankees and what needs to be done with the franchise. Who needs to get fired. And who? Okay, so we're going right into the hot takes, to the hot topics, this part of the podcast. So the floor is yours.
Guy hits a home run, he sits the next day. Greg Bird opens up, hits a home run, sitting the next day. Sanchez, home run, sits the next day. We have an off day in 2 days. No need for him to sit that day.
True. So is Aaron Boone the answer? Head coach? No. Okay.
Anybody but him would have been better.
You look at a team like the Yankees. They're designed to go far in Major League Baseball, right? They went to the wild card game. They were a wild card team 2 years ago. Then they were able to run the table and force 7 games after having a victory series lead, I believe, on the Houston Astros,
correct,
but lost in the ALCS, which is fine. The next year they go in and have a great season, but
with a different team,
with the
addition of Stanton,
right? And in the ALDS, they end up falling short to
the Red Sox,
a dynamite Boston team, which also wins the World Series. We've seen teams fall early in the regular season. We look at all the teams that have been there. The Yankees did this in 1997.
We've also seen teams shine early in the regular season.
We've also seen teams, yes.
Like the Mets last year, 11-1.
Of course, time to roast my team. That's okay. But we've seen teams come back and win championships. But I think what we're looking at here is a lack to score runs, right? And a lack of consistency. The pitching has been there.
He doesn't know how to manage a bullpen.
Okay, so the pitching's been there. The hitting hasn't been. He hasn't clocked the homers. He hasn't gotten them up. Hasn't gotten them up to the top, right where it needs to be. We'll switch to the Yankees a little bit. We'll come back to them later. There's a lot going on with that New York team. Toast of the town usually. Right now at 2-4. Then go to my 5-2 Mets. Okay, so their strength, New York Mets, is pitching
and contact hitting.
Need contact hitting. But I'm very happy of what we've done with Robinson Cano. He was a guy we got from the Seattle Mariners, used to play for the New York Yankees, a big-time guy that had been earning a lot of money, but now he comes in with the consistency that you have to win in Major League Baseball, get timely hits, make timely plays, run on the bases, make a timely out, do these things at a consistent basis. And he did so. And then we have our pitchers. Our ace, Jacob deGrom, who is the reigning NL Cy Young Award. And you look at him, and his numbers are still up there. But what pains me is a guy like Noah Syndergaard. Noah Syndergaard, a great pitcher, a really fundamental ace. But you look at it, and you get starstruck because where is the performance? Exactly. The performance isn't there. It's not peaking at the point that it needs to be. And, yes, the contact hitting. Last year, Michael Conforto had a decent start to the year, but he panned off with injuries in the middle of the season, and the Mets kind of was able to get into the NL wildcard race. Mm-hmm. Looking at a guy like that, you need to stay healthy. Looking at the legs and the arm of Yoenis Cespedes. Yoenis Cespedes, one of the power hitters that they got when they made their Major League Baseball.
And if the Mets can stay right around the playoff race until he gets back, I think they're really going to take off this year.
They can be a good team.
I said before the beginning of the year that the Mets are going to have more wins than the Red Sox this year.
I don't believe that, but I think the Mets are a good team. Red Sox will come around. They will come around, but look at the Yankees. They're not there yet, but I think the Yankees are a title contender. You go back to New York. This is a team. This is early. We can't make any judgment calls, but it's just a really great.
You go look at the facts. Sales velocity
really
down.
Interesting season.
Sales velocity is down, so they're not.
Look at the scores for tomorrow. So we continue to talk about the Mets and the Yankees. We also like to look at all across Major League Baseball. And we look to the games tomorrow. The second home game for the New York Mets against the Washington Nationals.
Patrick Corbin versus Steven Matz.
Corbin will go in Matz for the New York Mets. And as I make my pick for that game, I think the Mets will win. I'd probably say 3-2.
I'm going to have to say the Nationals win that.
Nationals win, and what score would you say?
Matt's performance was too good in his first outing. He's due for a letdown.
I could take that. I could say that. You look at the game in Motor City, Kansas City playing the Tigers. Kansas City is a team that's reloading/rebuilding, not sure where they are, as a team that was very dreadful last year, inconsistent the year before, a decent team the year before that, and a World Series champion. And then I would have to go to, I would say 4-1 Royals.
I think Matt Moore had too good of an outing his first time.
It is a good
duplicate it again.
Yes. Lopez pitching for Kansas City, Matt Moore for Detroit, the former Ray. In the city of Pittsburgh, where the Reds, a team that is very, very young, new-shaped, going to be a team that could make some noise, is in Pittsburgh to play the Pirates.
They just lost
that they did lose a game, but that will be a very intriguing matchup, of course. And Rourke is on the mound for Cincinnati. Williams in the hill for the Pirates.
Trevor Williams, very underrated pitcher, had a 3.1 ERA last year.
Okay.
He's a contact pitcher. He's not going to strike up many guys out. But you know what? I'm going to have to go with the Pirates in this one.
Right. I would probably agree. It's a good team. And you have a Minnesota team that is decent and against a Philadelphia team that lives or dies by the home run. Just an incredible offensive showdown. The pitchers, though, Jake Arrieta, they have not been there. He will be starting, though, against Pineda in the city of brotherly love.
Seen plenty of Pineda in my life.
Decent player. But I'm going to take the –
I'm going to have to go with the
I'm probably going to have to go with the Phillies. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Seattle is in Chicago, and Seattle's a team that's run the table as of late, but we know that we know that baseball is not won at this time. You can lose it, but you can't win it. So we'll see what ends up happening at this point. I think Chicago's going to upset Seattle, but it'll be Lake for the Mariners and
Lucas Giolito
for the Chicago White Sox.
Young and upcoming stud.
So the more young players you get, the more you win in this league because you have a chance to make some runs. You have a chance to make people miss. And you learn. You learn as a franchise. You learn as an organization. You learn with your players. Youth can breed success. It can also breed disappointment. But we're going to see what's going on because look at these teams. New York Yankees, they have youth. They're bats. They've been hitting, but the experience hasn't been there. The youth for the Chicago White Sox is going to take them up and above the red-hot Seattle Mariners. San Diego, Manny Machado, multi-million-dollar man. He's in St. Louis. And in St. Louis, they've got their own stud. And Goldschmidt on the mound, Paddock for San Diego. Michael Wacha, who's been in the league several years for the St. Louis Cardinals. What are you looking at that game? How are you seeing that game?
I'm going to have to go with the Cardinals in that one.
It's a nice game. We have to see how Wacha comes back.
Had a good first outing his first time around.
Yeah.
It's like he might have turned the corner.
It's a good team. They're on their rise back. They've had some issues, but St. Louis is looking like they're going to be baseball town again. You look at Tampa and San Francisco. San Francisco, an interesting team with Madison Bumgarner, and you don't know where he goes. You don't know what it has to do with that, but the potential's not there. Potential is with Tampa.
Looks like Tampa's going to go with an opener tomorrow. We don't know who it's going to be, and he's going against Jeff Samaja.
Yeah, Samaja is decent.
I'm going to have to take the race on that one.
I'm probably going to go with Tampa as well. Looking at Texas in Anaheim. And Anaheim, of course, with Trout, the big bats they've got there. It's going to be Skaggs against Smiley in the City of Angels. For the Angels, Skaggs, of course, and then Smiley for the Texas Rangers.
I'm going to go with the Angels.
And I would say the Angels. I'd say Trout is going to have a big game, and Anaheim wins. The Great North, Toronto Blue Jays are headed to Ohio to play the Indians. Panon for Ontario's finest, and Carrasco for the Cleveland Indians. And I'm going to take Cleveland in this one.
Me too.
Cleveland's a good team. Carrasco's a great pitcher. So just a good player. Just a really good player. And Oakland's going to continue their series. They got to 7-10 start. This is a home-and-home series. So this one's going to be in Texas against the Astros, who are a very elite team. I personally said they would be the most dangerous team and best equipped to win Major League Baseball's
You would be wrong.
prize. It's just my opinion. I have an opinion where I want an opinion. We keep our opinions in our opinions. Let's continue. Let us continue. And Houston has not had a good start, but they are playing Oakland at home. I'm going to take Oakland.
I'm going to have to go with Houston on that one.
One of the worst teams in Major League Baseball, still rebuilding, still fighting their way with the president of baseball operations, of course, Derek Jeter. The Miami Marlins in Georgia and Atlanta play the Braves. And the pitcher, Alcantara for Miami. For Wright is going to be pitching for Atlanta. and I would probably take the Braves. This is a year that is not going to be Miami's finest. And that's in the vice there with their baseball team. The Dodgers are going to play the Rockies in Denver, and I would take the Dodgers this is a really fun game to watch. Watch this.
Is also very good.
Watch this game because this will be very intriguing. And the last one, at least in Phoenix, we have the defending champs against the Diamondbacks. And I think Diamondbacks are going to take care of the Red Sox.
I think so.
I think that'd be a good idea. I can see that.
The Red Sox to keep letting me down. Rick Porcello giving up a lot of runs today. 10 hits, 3 walks.
It's Weaver for Arizona. David Price is pitching for the Red Sox.
I just can't keep taking the Red Sox. They keep killing.
Not a good team right now.
Nope.
They're not having the hits. They're not making the plays.
It's not there.
Excuse me. So we'll move on, and we are now going to talk about
the Yankees and the Orioles.
Yankees and the Orioles.
I'm going to have to go with the Yankees as J.A. Happ is on the mound.
Yes. Yankees also. So now as we switch from baseball, we'll go straight to the biggest event happening tomorrow, March Madness Final Four. It's finally here. Go through the round of 32, the round of 64, round of 32, Sweet 16, Elite 8, and we've got a great matchup. And the first matchup we will discuss, and we will have a full discussion on this. Michigan State is playing the first time they've ever been in the Final Four, the Red Raiders from Texas Tech. And you're looking at that. How and who wins?
Michigan State.
And go in depth. What do I like Cassius Winston. Cassius Winston is my X factor for this game. He's a great point guard. He dribbles the ball, he controls the ball, great free thrower. He's a decent coach, slightly overrated as Tom Izzo. Slightly overrated. He's a good coach. He's been in the Final Four before. Yes, I hate to say it, as you guys know, a diehard Wolverines fan, but I think Michigan State will win, and they will go to the national championship game. But I think the big factor, X factor, being Cassius Winston, their lead senior point guard. One of his last games, he's going to finally do it. He's going to get to the national championship, and Spartans are going to win. So then we get to the next one.
Auburn, Virginia.
When you look at the Tigers from Auburn, they've never been to the Final Four.
And I'm going to have to go with the upset.
And I am going to not go with War Eagle. I'd say the Cavs take this one. The Cavs have so much length. You look at their guards.
So does Auburn.
You look at
it's Auburn's year.
You look at the players that they have.
Looking.
And
tell me.
The length of the forwards, the length of the centers.
Well, I'm going to tell you from
really
right now. This
it really
is March.
Explains you.
Well, it was March.
This is a team that's had so much experience. How many times have they gone into playoff games?
And it looks like the gods are with Auburn. Do you remember in the round of 64? Do you remember in the round of 64 when they played New Mexico State?
Now look at Virginia.
The
coaching is there. I love Bruce Pearl.
Virginia's the most
He's a great
team
coach, but Virginia has gotten
the most overrated team in the
They've gotten through probably one of the best point guards in
most
NCAA.
Team in the tournament.
It's a wonderful team.
Overrated team.
I think they're going to do it, and then I have them going to the national championship. So you have the Spartans and the Tigers. I'm assuming you're picking Tom Izzo.
Correct.
I am having the Cavs and the Spartans. Virginia wins it. Virginia's going to take it. This is the year. They had that whole disappointment against University of Maryland, Baltimore County Golden Retrievers when they completely busted along and they got shellacked against that great UMBC team that was just riding the wave. And now you have a Virginia team who's realizing they can't take things for granted, and they have the size. They have the speed. They have the power. They have the experience. They have the coaching. They can do it. They know that they have what they need to win the national championship. And they're going to do it. They're going to beat Michigan State. They're going to overwhelm Cassius Winston, take him out of foul trouble. You outcoach Tom Izzo. You win this basketball game. I'm saying Virginia 67, Michigan 63. Michigan State, 63. So that's the March Madness. But overall, though, you recap this tournament, it's been amazing.
It's been Auburn's tournament.
It's been an incredible tournament. Nothing that we ever saw. Not a lot of upsets, but a lot of upsets later on. So you got a team like Duke, who
there's only one seed there.
Went through and only one seed, and that one seed is going to end up doing it.
The most overrated team in the tournament.
They're not overrated. They have the experience.
Overrated.
What do you see in Auburn?
The eye test.
The eye test.
Yes.
Of a team that just runs through competition. They're experienced. You think of the teams that they've played. North Carolina, okay? Kentucky. These are teams that play the same direction. They play guards fast.
These are
They play
teams
guards
that were supposed
fast.
to win
You
it all.
overwhelm them.
They manhandled North Carolina.
They used a trap.
Manhandled North Carolina.
What's the problem with the
97
trap?
to 80.
What's the problem with the
Manhandled
trap? You can't use a
Manhandled
trap. No way. You cannot use a trap. I'm trapping the guards here. I have
Where
a
are you
big
trapping
guy.
them?
So
Where
a
are
guard
you
comes through on the baseline, grabs the ball.
Uh-huh.
He can have a big guy cut outdoor, cut indoor, cut to the basket, make different types of plays, make different types of cuts, make different types of uses with the plays. They know Michigan State wants to do. This and Auburn wants to do. Auburn is not going to beat Virginia. The Virginia Cavaliers are going to play Michigan State in the national championship on Monday night.
Guess we have to wait and see.
So I guess as we go from this, we'll go to the NBA playoffs, NBA season. I know that the Milwaukee Bucks,
the Pistons lost tonight.
Detroit did lose, and the
Thunder.
Brooklyn Nets. Of course, as you know, I am a Knicks fan. Knicks are not very good there. We are tanking for Zion Williamson. And any games tomorrow? I know there's a bunch of
The
games.
Nets play the Bucks, and the Sixers play the Bulls.
So we have a game. There's only 2 games tomorrow. Brooklyn and Milwaukee, and regular season end is when?
Nets have 3 games left.
So near the end of the NBA, as we look, there are a bunch of games on Sunday. The Nets do play Brooklyn, but Brooklyn is Nets play Milwaukee. Excuse me. That is very important.
That's a very
game.
important game for the Nets.
And on April 7th, we've got a lot of very vital, extremely important NBA
Hornets
games.
Pistons going to be Raptors Heat's going to be important.
So Miami in the Scotiabank in Ontario play the Raptors. I have Toronto in this. Miami's not a very good team. They're at the 8th
I just need to see
seed,
who. No, they're not at the 8th seed. They're at the 9th seed. I just have to see who's playing for Toronto. Kawhi Leonard's going to play,
right?
Because the Bucks just secured home court advantage throughout the playoffs.
Sure.
So
do you stick at 2, but you also watch who would be behind you at 3 on either Philadelphia
well,
or
it looks
Indiana.
like it's going to be Philly, and then it looks like the first round matchup is going to be Philly-Boston.
Then we have a game that's semi-important
Indiana-Boston.
in Cleveland. Cleveland has obviously been out for the last few months. San Antonio, you look at that team.
They're the 7th seed in the
Team's not a very good team in the Western Conference, but they're sticking to where they have. They're rebuilding a team that has been great for a long time and remodeling it into the way the franchise wants to refranchise it. Oklahoma City and Minnesota. Minnesota has been bad for some time. Oklahoma City, though, a good team, and I think the Thunder will end up winning this. And a quick note from this, as I talked to you this off camera, but I'd like to bring this up to bring up some controversial issues on the show, of course. What do you think of the officiating in the game, Golden State, Minnesota, at the end of the game? There's some questionable officiating.
It was, but it was a foul. If you want to go by the rules, it was a foul.
If you look at
I would have a bigger problem with when they played Houston and Durant caught the ball out of bounds, literally out of bounds. You could see the ball was out of bounds. The ref was right there. His foot was out of bounds, and they didn't call it. And Curry wound up hitting a shot that put them ahead in overtime. And Harden wound up hitting a great 3 to win the game. But
this is a strange opportunity and a strange situation in the NBA. All I hope is that we don't get these controversial calls in the playoffs. We know we probably will.
Oh, 100%.
But it's to the point where you hope for the best. Charlotte and Detroit, and Charlotte's hunting for that 8th spot. Detroit already in the mix. I think Charlotte will go to the pizza box and win this thing. Brooklyn and Indiana, of course.
You have to go with Brooklyn again.
And
the Nets are on the table this year.
This is not a time where the Brooklyn Nets can falter, but this is a really good team that's at home. I'm going Pacers. Dallas and Memphis, both teams are horrible. Not really any interest in this game, but for sake of argument, we'll call Memphis. Atlanta and Milwaukee, again, no interest. They have the best record in the NBA. Just an incredible, insanely talented Milwaukee group, but what will they do in the postseason?
Not the best team in the Eastern Conference.
Probably rest
Giannis.
a bunch of players.
They'll
probably rest
a
bunch of players against Atlanta.
Down the stretch.
Atlanta's not a very good team, and you don't need to worry about them clinching the best record. Phoenix and Houston. Phoenix is terrible, tanking. They're also taking for Zion, RJ Barrett, whatever player that they're looking for, right? Houston, though, they had a tough start, but they're gearing up. The Houston Rockets are definitively the St. Louis Blues of the NBA, coming from a time where they were just regarded as garbage and have rolled themselves into a title contending spot. I think Harden's going to have a huge game, per usual.
Yep.
And the Rockets will
As they get playoff ready.
Yes. Orlando, huge game for the Magic. It's a gigantic game.
Lots of playoff.
And in the TD Garden,
who's going to
play
play
the Celtics? Who will play? Very
will Kyrie
interesting.
Play? Will
Right.
Tatum play? Will
Do you
Hayward
stay
play?
at 5? Do you stay at 5 where you know where you need to be
Or
for
do
a
you go up
playoff
to 4
spot?
and get the home court
Exactly.
advantage in the
Do you
first
go
round?
for that? If you go too far and you don't win, do you drop to 7 where you could see? And as I've
They're
said,
not dropping to 7.
at this spot for the last few weeks, I really want a Boston-Toronto matchup in the second round to mirror the one that we're already getting in the Stanley Cup playoffs. For the Wizards and the Knicks, a game no one in the world except for me and maybe a Wizards fan will care about. I say Washington probably wins this one in Madison Square Garden. Clippers and Warriors, I think this is going to be the most intriguing game of the entire Sunday night. It's going to be a really interesting game. It's going to mean so much playoff implications. The Warriors right now have the 1 seed. I think if they win, they clinch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you clinch, home court advantage throughout the Western Conference playoffs. And you also have the Clippers who have a high seed the playoffs trying to make sure that they're going to keep that and they don't drop to a point where there's a possibility that they could get mathematically eliminated. Although that does not look like it will be the case, you still have the possibility. Denver and Portland, not a terrific game, but I think Portland actually upsets Denver.
I don't think so. They just lost.
And
They just lost Nurkic to a season-ending injury.
looking at
Like,
New
it's gonna be
Orleans.
really good.
Then in looking at New Orleans and Sacramento,
No playoff implications.
I know
there.
playoff implications as well.
Just guys who are playing for the
Utah
jobs.
playing the Lakers, of course. Again,
No
playoff implications are
For the
not
Jazz.
are not there. So we still have discussions we're having. I will briefly. You probably watched my previous video. I briefly will touch upon the.
Hockey.
I'm trying to find it. I briefly touched on the National Hockey League, but not exactly. Yeah, that's where it is. But not exactly as in depth as I did in the previous video. And we will first start with Tampa and Boston. There you go. The Lightning and the Bruins. This is a game that, again, does not have much playoff implications. The Boston Bruins, we already know, are the 2 seed. They will be playing the Leafs in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We also know that the Tampa Bay Lightning can be the second team in National Hockey League history to reach 62 wins. And with 62 wins, they would tie the 1995-96 Detroit Red Wings, who went to the Western Conference Final against the Colorado Avalanche that year when Yzerman had that great shot. Which team is Tampa Bay? Okay. As I said, I believe the Bruins will upset them, and I believe the Bruins are going to get ready for the Maple Leafs.
Me too.
Vancouver and St. Louis, that's a game that means a lot of implications for the St. Louis Blues. I'm not going to talk too much about the St. Louis Blues because I had a whole 5-minute discussion on the St. Louis Blues in the Central Division in the National Hockey League in my previous video. I say St. Louis wins. Devils, Panthers, not very pertinent. No playoff implications. Both teams are not very good. Florida, of course, had a rough start. Florida wins this 3-1. Carolina playing the Flyers. Carolina gets it done. They end on a good note and get ready for the Caps. Capitals and Islanders. Islanders get 3-1 on the Caps, but doesn't matter as the Capitals, as we already know, have clinched. Robin Lehner, the former Sabre, is starting for New York. Braden Holtby is starting for Washington. And for Buffalo is playing Detroit. Carter Hutton in goal for the Sabres. Jimmy Howard for the Red Wings. This is a game with absolutely no playoff implications. It is a draft bust. They're just going for the draft, just trying to tank. That would be the end of that. I would say Detroit wins this one at the Pizza Box. Columbus against Ottawa, a game that means nothing as Columbus just beat the Rangers in a shootout about a few hours ago. Columbus has already clinched a playoff spot. Bobrovsky is going to start second straight game in Ottawa. Anders Nielsen, the former Canuck, is going to start for the Senators. Maple Leafs, Canadiens. Actually, we just got a notification. We just got, right now as we speak, it will be Craig Anderson starting for the Ottawa Senators, not Anders Nielsen.
That's big news.
That is not really big news at all, but it is fun to see that just came up. Frederick Anderson for the Maple Leafs is going to start, and Carey Price for the Montreal Canadiens in Hockey Night in Canada in the Bell Center. It means nothing for the Canadiens. They've just been eliminated from the playoffs, but it'll be an interesting game to see. My friend CJ is a casual Rangers fan. His Rangers are in PP&G paints to play the Pens tomorrow. And Lundqvist will start for the Rangers, Matt Murray for the Pens. Minnesota, the two teams that used to play in Minnesota, or still do, Minnesota Wild and Dallas in Texas. Devon Dubnyk will be playing for the Wild, and Anton Khudobin, the former Bruin and Hurricane, is going to be in net for the Stars. Chicago to play Nashville tomorrow. That's also an important pivotal game for the Central Division. That is in Bridgestone in the Music City. Cam Ward starting for the Hawks and Pekka Rinne for the Preds. The last and final battle of Alberta. In Alberta, Canada, Calgary, in the Saddle Dome. The Oilers and the Flames. Flames already have home ice advantage throughout the entire Western Conference playoffs. And against any team besides the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning, be it if they would go to the Stanley Cup final. I have the Calgary Flames getting the win over Edmonton. Riddick will start for Calgary. Mikko Koskinen is going to start for the Edmonton Oilers. Winnipeg against Arizona in Phoenix and Glendale. And that game means nothing for the Coyotes. As we know, last night they were eliminated from Stanley Cup playoff contention due to the tie with the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche due to point constraints. The Coyotes are going to get the win. Calvin Pickard is going to start for Arizona in the net. Connor Hellebuck, the Minnesotan, will start for the Jets. In the City of Angels in the Staples Center, Vegas against the Kings. The Flower will start for his last regular season game before getting ready to go to San Jose to play against the Sharks in the playoffs. And the young former Ontario Reign, Jake Campbell, the young goaltender for the LA Kings, will start in net for them. And the nightcap, the last game of the regular season, is in San Jose as they gear up for their playoff matchup. Colorado gearing up for them as well. Philip Grubauer, the former Capital, in net for the Avs, and Martin Jones for the Sharks. And that will be the end of the regular season. Tampa Bay Lightning. I say the Tampa Bay Lightning will win the Stanley Cup probably on Sunday or Tuesday, and the puck drops here. We have a huge video on predictions, talking all the predictions around the National Hockey League playoffs. And speaking of playoffs, I think this is a good idea. At CMP, we're going to do a video on the NBA playoffs and our predictions for each of the teams. In the NBA, we get all the leagues coming in, of course, and we're going to end our little video on talk about everybody's favorite non-sporting event, the NFL Draft. So your Steelers have the 20th pick in the first round.
Indeed.
What do you do with that selection?
Greedy Williams,
cornerback from the University of Louisiana State. So good player. He's got the intangibles that a fast player, ball hawk. You're a man that can hit. You're a man that can deflect the ball. He can do all the things that you want if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Look for them to move up in the first round with the picks they got from Manchester.
I, as a New York Giants fan, have this philosophy. New York Giants, with the 6th pick overall, should take Jonah Williams, offensive tackle from the University of Alabama. You need an offensive line. Yes, I keep hearing about the Ohio State quarterback. Don't need him. Don't want him. I would rather get an offensive line that can work. I'd rather get a guy that can block, keep my quarterback staying in the pocket. Is Eli going to win this year? No. But he's not supposed to. This is a rebuilding year.
It's
a rebuilding.
Away Odell.
So you get a 17th pick. What do you do with that 17th? What do you do with that 17th overall selection? You trade it down for more seconds. You trade back into the first round and take Daniel Jones at the University of Duke. There's a guy that could back up. If you don't want, you could trade. You could also make the trade for Josh Rosen. You can make more picks and wait a little bit. And next year, take Tua Tagovailoa. You can take him from the University of Alabama.
It's not going to happen. You're not going to get the player of Odell's caliber.
And we're not getting Odell. We don't want a receiver. We're not getting a receiver.
Any player you draft the 17th pick won't be as good as.
We're not drafting from the 17th pick. We're trading down from the 17th pick.
And you're going to find
Daniel Jones at the 31st pick overall.
You think that's the answer?
I think, is the answer. You sit him behind Eli for 1 or 2 years. Eli's injuries creep up and he can't play anymore. You put in Daniel Jones.
It's the age. It never hurt.
True.
Never hurt.
It's just a guy with an arm that it's very sad because the degeneration of a great quarterback a
Came
Hall
to
of
an end
Fame,
about
a
5
Hall
years
of
ago.
Fame, 2 Super Bowl champion
Not a Hall of
quarterback, and you think of what he's done, and you just think of
look
the
at what he's
degradation.
done. He's been
Sad.
mediocre at best for the past 5 years.
Big Ben, 7 interceptions. Okay, we won't try to argue about this, but
you could bring up that
the NFL
Big Ben
draft-
teams in the playoffs every year.
not
His
last
numbers are
year.
there
Not
every
last year. Not last year.
Last year
We
was
bring up the
under
NFL
different
draft.
circumstances.
Really interesting things that, of course, at the end of April, I personally believe that the first
Who do
pick,
you think had a better career, Eli Manning or Ben Roethlisberger?
Eli Manning, no doubt.
Can you give me facts to back
Can
this
I
up?
give you statistics?
Yes, please.
He had a better defense. He had a running game. He's had an organization that supported him. He's
Who?
had organization. The Maras and the Tishes.
You talking about Eli Manning?
Yeah, his organization has supported him. He's had great
What
years.
does his
He's got
defense-
old.
What does his defense have
And
to
his
do
running
anything
game.
with
Because
Eli
you can't
Manning?
win the Super Bowl without defense and running game. The Steelers had that too. But Big Ben Roethlisberger did not play well he only played well in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter of the 2008 Super Bowl.
You won, right?
We won. You did win.
Okay.
And you won the first
And you won,
one.
and we won,
But the
right?
first one, he played very awful.
He was a rookie.
So, fine. So
Exactly.
we of course look in
The numbers don't compare.
and we continue to carry on and we talk about the draft. A lot of interesting
Eli
things going
Manning's
on.
like the
Stanley
Devils.
Cup playoffs.
Trash.
What? I didn't even roast your team. The NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs. A team that hasn't been in the Stanley Cup final is in 2014. A team that wasn't the Stanley Cup final since 1994. Don't go on me about hockey. So much stuff going on. Of course, we know. We know the NFL draft. We know the NBA playoffs. March Madness tomorrow. It's going to be Virginia and it's going to be Michigan State.
Auburn, Michigan State.
It's going to be Virginia and Michigan State. Now at the
Tigers, baby.
Stanley Cup playoffs. And baseball, of course, picking up. Great season. The Yankees and the Mets. I may briefly talk about the playoffs on CMP, but you know that on Sunday or Tuesday, of course, that's the other big thing. I not really go onto this at all on this channel, but on the Puck Drops here, I did talk about, if you may have remembered, about directly about the lottery and the picks and how the lottery is stacked up so Colorado can win it. But we'll go into that at later times. Because the playoffs and everything is starting up. This is the greatest time of sports. And this concludes episode 1. And have a good night, everybody. We can't wait for episode 2 to talk about all about sports. CMP is out.